Attention readers and leaders, world-renowned author Jordan Wells has teamed up with Hip Hop News Uncensored for a special offer just for you. That's right. I want everybody listening under the sound of my voice to click on the link at the top line of the description box and make sure you go grab yourself one of his many books right now. I'm guaranteeing you this book, any one of these books, will change your life and the way that you see things. The link is at the top of the description box. Ready, set, go.
And you see the consequences of somebody falling short in that role when you look at the life of DMX. But there's millions of other people that could tell equally tragic stories that have happened in their life too.
Now we talk about, drug addiction, and I know over the years you have been on Future, for his message. And I looked up an article. The song Molly Percocet hit 1 billion streams just on Spotify alone, since its release date. People like Future and others that promote, drug use. How big or how massive do you think the collateral damage is, with the youth and the young kids coming up?
Well, let me tell you this. There's a reason the federal government will not allow you to advertise certain products. If somebody wanted to market cigarettes to children, they're not allowed to do that. And the reason is because marketing works. And the reason corporations are very happy to pay artists money to promote a product is because hip hop artists were the original social media influencers. They were social media influencers before social media even existed, going all the way back to Run DMC when they got everybody to buy Adidas. Adidas' sales went up because of the song My Adidas. So for any artist to not realize the impact of their words on the listener means that they are completely unwilling to consider all the research that shows that the subconscious mind is the most powerful part of your brain. And so when you have a certain message in your music, the damage is going to be huge. There's so many people that they dress like the artists. They do what the artists do. They follow the celebrities. We worship celebrities. That's not healthy, right? I wish we could get rid of that, but it is what it is. And so the impact of Future's music is huge. In fact, his words will have far greater impact than my words or our words or anything. And it makes me very sad that anybody who brings that up is just seen as a hater or you just mad or you just trying to attack somebody. No, you're not trying to attack somebody. You're trying to protect somebody. Right. So I hope he figures it out and grows up. I don't know if he ever will. And I do believe the damage is going to be huge because it's right now, right at this very moment there. I just read a story literally 20 minutes ago about a little town where they have so many drug addicts that this lady was talking about all the people in her family that are dying from drugs that died in the past 6 months alone, and this is literally something I read today. So this is everywhere. And so as Black people, we have to be conscious and aware and not just be sheep. We have to speak up on this.
Absolutely. Now, I want the people, when I ask this question, to make the statement, not to have any correlation between what I'm about to ask and DMX's death, because I'm not trying to put any correlation, but I want to ask you this, Doctor. We hear a lot of people in hip hop, in particular in our age of hip hop, saying they sold their soul. DMX said it a lot. He said, I sold my soul to the devil and the price was cheap. And it's cold on his level because it's twice as deep. He said this through album. Rappers in hip hop seemingly, quote unquote, sell their soul to whatever the case may be within the industry. How detrimental was that? Hearing that as a young up and coming rapper or somebody that's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It may have an influential on these rappers, hearing that, thinking that's what they have to do to make it. And that's kind of maybe even a segue to what Lil Nas X is doing.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting, right? It's kind of ironic because when you think about being rich and famous, it's like that's like heaven, right? But you got to go through hell to get to heaven, and this whole method, this whole model of I sold my soul, you got to understand that goes to the origins and the roots of the entertainment industry itself and of Hollywood itself. They got some real debaucherous, really messed up people like out in Hollywood, and there's no rule that says to be successful in any industry, you got to sell your soul and you got to do all these crazy rituals. But there's something about entertainment that is incredibly unhealthy, psychologically, physically, and otherwise. And what I really like now is that we have other pockets of the industry developing where people can become successful in a healthy way. If you look at an artist like a D1, who's made millions of dollars now, independent, pretty independent, had a record deal and walked away from it. I want to go back to being independent. There's ways to succeed. There's ways to achieve that, and we're getting to that. We're getting closer. And because guys are starting to talk on this, right? If you look at look at the importance of the example from the OGs. You have Ice Cube, Diddy, Kanye, and others who are all either billionaires or on their way to billionaire status, who became billionaires without depending on making some album to get there, right? The music becomes that pathway to brand building and promotion of a product or whatever. But then the mechanics of actually building the type of power that allows you to write your own ticket and make your own choices, that's a different model. That's where your training in things like business and entrepreneurship and investing comes into play. That's how Nas is making most of his money. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. All the entertainers are starting to figure it out now. And, even Snoop is now getting involved in the cannabis industry and doing everything else. And because he built a brand around cannabis, and I don't put cannabis in the same category as a lot of the other things, even though brothers have to be real careful with that, because some of that synthetic stuff will kill you. And also it's hard to be real productive when you're smoking weed all day long. Right. So like everything else, it should be seen in moderation. But you see the guys that are maybe 40 and up who are starting to sort of show you, like, okay, there are different ways to achieve that goal. I mean, if you think about this, to be in the category of being a successful artist, you don't have to make $100 million. If you're making $500,000 a year, or where a guys like Immortal Technique were before he became a multimillionaire. Let's say he was making $300,000-$400,000 a year and touring around the world. Well, now you're successful. You're making as much money as a surgeon, and you're doing what you love. You win. Check. Congratulations, right? So we got to just understand that there are many, many ways to skin that cat. You ain't got to go the pathway that people had to go through in the 80s. This is a different world. So I do agree with your point. And actually, it's funny. I kind of lost the question just a little bit, but I hope that I answered it in the sense of saying that selling your soul is not necessary. Your soul should never be for sale. When somebody offers to buy your soul, just know that there's 1,000 ways for you to get what you want without having to bend over and let somebody butt break you in order for you to be on TV. Because really, if you sell your soul to be successful, then you're not successful at all.
Right.
I think it's a good segue to go into Diddy. He penned a letter to corporate America today. It was very, very powerful. I think you did a podcast earlier on it. Could you break it down for us and speak on what are your thoughts about Diddy's letter to corporate America?
That letter was great.